Science Integrity Alliance, in partnership with the Collaborative Library. Mirror video summaries featuring the 2 a.m. scroll, Inside the Health Misinformation Storm. Scientists traced how health misinformation spreads and uncovered a hidden problem. The studies fighting it are often not of good quality themselves. To understand the scale of the problem, we need to start where misinformation begins. It's 2 a.m. You're scrolling in the dark, searching for sense, but it's all noise. You just want to keep your family safe, but it's hard to know what to believe. The problem isn't just the virus, it's the flood of information that comes with it. Scientists have a word for this: an infodemic, when truth and falsehood spread together so quickly that people can't tell them apart. And this pattern repeats with every outbreak or disaster, whether it's COVID, Ebola, or Zika. Health misinformation isn't just confusing, it's dangerous. It can make people delay care, skip vaccines, or lose trust in doctors. It spreads fear and confusion and leads to bad use of science and resources. As false claims flooded the internet, scientists rushed to study the problem, trying to understand what was spreading and why. But with new studies appearing so quickly, another question emerged. Could we really trust the science about misinformation itself? So what did the scientists do next? A new study, led by Do Nascimento, with co-authors from Brazil, the WHO Regional Office for Europe, Colombia, and Sweden, set out to understand how health misinformation spreads. The team used a clever approach. Instead of studying one rumor or one platform, they studied the research itself. In other words, they looked at studies of studies to see what all the existing evidence really showed. Here's how research usually works. One scientist looks at a single question. For example, how many tweets about Ebola were false? That's one individual study. Then other researchers gather dozens or even hundreds of those smaller studies to spot patterns. Scientists call that a systematic review, a study that combines many results to build a stronger layer of understanding. But even those reviews can miss the bigger structure. So this team went a step further, bringing all those reviews together in one place to see the full picture of what science really knows about how misinformation spreads. They searched the world's main medical research databases in 2022 and screened more than 9,000 records. From that mountain of data, they identified 31 systematic reviews on health misinformation, 17 of them fully published in scientific journals. These papers covered over 1,000 individual studies from different countries, platforms, and health topics. The researchers registered their systematic review with Prospero, which is a public database that tracks reviews to make them transparent and avoid duplication. They followed international reporting standards called Prisma 2020 and Quorum, which help make reviews clear and reliable. The researchers asked 4 main questions. How well do current studies deal with the special features of infodemics? What kinds of information about infodemics appear in systematic reviews? What challenges, opportunities, and recommendations do those reviews mention? And how good is the quality and reporting of the existing reviews themselves? Amid the noise and confusion, how did the researchers manage this flood of data? To make sense of this mountain of data, they grouped the evidence into 5 key themes. Where does it come from, and how common is it? Where does it spread? What harm can health misinformation cause? When does social media help instead of hurt? What works to stop false claims? But they didn't stop there. The team realized that even studies on misinformation could have flaws of their own. They wanted to know not just what researchers found, but how well they did their work. So, 2 reviewers used a 16-point checklist called AmStar 2 to test the quality of each review. They asked questions like, did the authors plan their methods in advance to avoid bias? Did they double-check their data? And were the original studies designed and analyzed properly? They compared their results, discussed any differences, and made sure their agreement was strong, measured with a statistic called Cohen's kappa, K. A score above 0.85 meant their ratings matched well. What did the study reveal? Across all the studies, misinformation appeared often online. How common is it? Between 0.2% and 28.8% of health posts contained false or misleading claims, anywhere from 1 in 500 to nearly 1 in 3, depending on the topic. Where does it spread? Mostly through Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, where information travels fast and far. What harm does it cause? False health information was linked to fear, confusion, delayed care, wasted resources, vaccine hesitancy, and stress among both the public and health workers. Some studies also noted increased pressure on hospitals and even hostility toward medical staff. When can social media help? Some reviews showed that these same platforms can also save lives, helping governments issue early warnings, track outbreaks, and share verified updates when used responsibly. Communities even created fact-check groups where users helped one another find reliable information. What works to stop false claims? Corrections from experts, doctors, and scientists were found to work far better than those from friends or influencers. Quick, calm explanations backed by credible sources had the strongest impact, especially when shared early. How strong is the research itself? When the team rated the research quality of 17 published reviews, 16 were critically low and only 1 was low. Overall confidence in the evidence was low to very low, showing that much of what we know about misinformation still rests on weak foundations. Why does it matter? Right now, governments, health agencies, and tech companies make real decisions based on this kind of evidence. But if that evidence is weak, those decisions risk missing the mark. Still, there's a reason for hope. This research gives us an initial idea of where false information may spread fastest, whose voices people trust most, what types of corrections work best, and what standards future studies must meet. So, eventually, we don't have to be caught off guard by health misinformation. But what remained unanswered? Because almost all the reviews they examined were low in quality, the findings should be taken with caution. The team only analyzed published scientific reviews, not government reports or unpublished studies, which might have painted a different picture. Moreover, since they were reviewing other researchers' work, their conclusions depended on how carefully those earlier studies were done. Finally, much of the evidence came from COVID-19 research. We still don't know if misinformation behaves the same way during other emergencies, like natural disasters or future outbreaks. So here we are. The next time your phone buzzes with a shocking health claim, you'll face a choice: share it or pause and check. This study is a wake-up call. Misinformation doesn't only spread online, it spreads through weak research and rushed decisions. Fixing it starts with all of us: scientists, policymakers, and the public. Truth wins when we slow down, think critically, and verify before we share. Your phone can spread fear, or it can spread facts. Pause, verify, protect. Key takeaways. For everyone, health misinformation online ranges widely, from less than 1% to nearly 1 in 3 posts. Experts correct misinformation best, and speed matters. Always pause and question before you share. For scientists, much of the existing research on health misinformation and infodemics is low quality. We need stronger methods and transparency. For policymakers, decisions must rest on trusted evidence, not speed. Health literacy is a long-term investment in public safety. For the next crisis, tackling infodemics takes more than doctors and scientists. It calls for action across every sector: law, media, education, and technology. We need fair policies, honest communication, and stronger public awareness. And we need to help people build the skills to spot false information, question it, and choose what's true. This concludes our overview of the paper. For more meta-science insights, visit the Mirror Hub at the Science Integrity Alliance, or explore video summaries on other topics at the Collaborative Library website.